What Abraham Lincoln gave us, Donald Trump wants to take away. The first significant use of voting by mail occurred during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln trusted the Postal Service to deliver that mail. He trusted those envelopes. Our postal system is older than the United States itself. The interstate mail system was established a year before the Declaration of Independence was written, with Benjamin Franklin serving as our first Postmaster General. In what would surely be a horror to Benjamin Franklin, we now have a Postmaster General who has put in writing his eagerness to violate the law for Donald Trump because Donald Trump told him to. From the start, the Postal Service has been operating under laws passed by Congress that require all mail with proper postage to be delivered. And now Donald Trump's favorite Postmaster General, David Steiner, has written a new rule for the post office, which Donald Trump ordered him to write in an executive order, in which David Steiner promises that the Postal Service will violate the law and not deliver mail if that mail contains election ballots sent to or from someone who the Postmaster General has decided should lose the right to vote in America. If you randomly walk into federal courthouses around the country and just look in at the criminal proceedings, one of the oldest federal crimes with one of the largest records of criminal prosecution in federal courts that you will encounter is mail fraud or tampering with the mail in some way, blocking the mail, some kind of interference with the delivery of the mail. That's a federal crime. A postal worker in Massachusetts pleaded guilty just 2 months ago in federal court in Boston to the crime of failing to deliver mail. The specific charge the postal worker pleaded guilty to was obstruction of mail. One count of obstruction of mail. A postal worker waiting sentencing faces a possible sentence of 6 months in prison for one count of obstruction of mail. Postmaster General David Steiner is now eager to obstruct millions and millions of pieces of mail. The biggest crime of mail obstruction in American history. This perilous moment in history. That is what California's governor called this moment when Donald Trump is poised to illegally seize control of our elections by seizing control of the 13 million ballots that are delivered by mail in California elections alone. On Monday, the Republicans on the Supreme Court rejected an attempt to block Donald Trump from committing this crime against the Constitution and against the people of the United States. The Supreme Court Republican majority said it was just too soon to know if what Donald Trump was going to do was illegal because his Postmaster General had not yet written his new rule about how to handle mail-in ballots. Never mind that he had actually written that rule on Friday and the Supreme Court ruling was on Monday. They could have read it, but they didn't. So they pretended it was still too soon. The new rule that he was ordered to write by Donald Trump, who also told him what that rule would say. Donald Trump put all of that clearly in a written executive order that the Supreme Court saw. The Supreme Court could see in that order exactly the crime Donald Trump was planning to commit. But because the Postmaster General had not yet, when they wrote their opinion, put his participation in the crime in writing, the Supreme Court said it was too soon to stop the crime in progress. And the states objecting to this would simply have to wait until the Postmaster General actually puts his criminal plan in writing, which the Postmaster General did. He's written a 95-page rule that was released on Friday, giving him control over all ballots mailed in America. The Postmaster General, according to this rule, will look at the ballot envelopes when the Postal Service receives them and then decide which of those envelopes the Postal Service will deliver. The 24 states objecting to this have filed a new lawsuit in court today in Massachusetts in federal court. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell filed the suit in federal court in Boston today. The state attorney general representing the largest number of voters who use the mail is California's Attorney General Rob Bonta, who will join our coverage tonight. Their lawsuit says, quote, "For more than 250 years, the Federal Postal Service has provided reliable, vital services to millions of Americans and served to bind the nation together through the personal, educational, literary, and business correspondence of the people. Congress has defined the exclusive circumstances under which the United States Postal Service may refuse mail. The Postal Service's right to exclude letters or to refuse to permit their delivery to persons addressed must depend upon some law of Congress. And if no such law exists, then it cannot exclude or refuse to deliver them." Congress enumerated the specific and narrow categories of non-mailable matter, including, for example, matter declared non-mailable by criminal statute. Neither mail ballots nor mail ballot envelopes fall into any non-mailable category outlined in statute. Case closed. It is as simple as that. Only Congress can authorize the Postal Service to refuse to deliver some category of mail, hazardous materials, for example. As soon as the Postmaster General saw Donald Trump's illegal executive order, his job, his moral duty, was to say to Donald Trump, "It is illegal for you to order me to refuse to deliver mail if the states do not create lists of voters for me to check, and if the states do not create ballot envelopes that I approve of." All of that's illegal. And the reason it's illegal for the Postmaster General not to deliver mail is because it's a crime for him to refuse to deliver the mail. He could have told Donald Trump that immediately. But David Steiner is now an eager accomplice of Donald Trump, disgracing the position created in this country by Benjamin Franklin. David Steiner had a life-defining moment delivered to him when Donald Trump sent him an illegal executive order that was both illegal and unconstitutional. And David Steiner showed us exactly who he is, exactly how craven he is, exactly how dishonorable he is. He is another disgraceful and now permanently, lifetime disgraced Trump accomplice, trying to commit the crime against democracy that Donald Trump wants him to commit. Having the Congress on your side in a legal argument is one thing. Having the Constitution on your side is everything. The lawsuit against Donald Trump and the Postmaster General says, quote, "States bear primary responsibility for elections under the United States Constitution. The Constitution's elections clause provides that the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing senators." That's it. That's what the Constitution says about it. And nowhere in the election clause of the United States Constitution is the word president mentioned. The lawsuit points out that Donald Trump has tried and failed to do this through the Congress. The lawsuit says, quote, "For months, the president has relentlessly urged Congress to pass the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, the Save America Act, which seeks to enact some of these goals. In addition, the president has called on Congress to severely restrict the ability of voters to cast ballots by mail. Congress has declined to adopt the Save America Act. much less the other voting restrictions for which the president has advocated. Having failed to persuade Congress, the president has continued his efforts to unilaterally impose federal control over elections. On March 31st, 2026, the president issued the executive order that led to the regulation at issue in this case. It could not be clearer for the Supreme Court now. When Donald Trump failed to get a majority Republican Congress to do what he wanted, he simply issued an illegal order to a postmaster general who would do whatever Donald Trump wanted. The lawsuit says, quote, Congress has never exercised its Elections Clause authority to limit mail voting or authorize the United States Postal Service to monitor or control the transmission of mail ballots. Rather, Congress has only expanded and protected mail voting for military and overseas voters. Neither the president nor the United States Postal Service may control eligibility to vote by mail, nor may either impose mandates on state and local election officials implementing state law governing voting by mail. Postmaster General David Steiner violated Postal Service law by failing to consult the Postal Rate Commission before making a major operational change. But David Steiner didn't care. Donald Trump wanted this done, and David Steiner was going to do it no matter what the law said. The Postmaster General violated the laws governing the Postal Service, something no other Postmaster General has ever been accused of. The lawsuit describes the new postal rule that the Supreme Court will now have to evaluate. Here it is. The rule requires states to enroll every eligible mail voter with the United States Postal Service and tasks the United States Postal Service with compiling them into state-specific lists. It further establishes design requirements for ballot mail envelopes, including the requirement to use trackable intelligent mail barcodes, and provides that the United States Postal Service must pre-approve states' ballot envelope designs when election officials send ballot mail to voters missing from a state's United States Postal Service list or use envelopes that do not comply with the new standards. The United States Postal Service will not deliver those ballots. The lawsuit says, quote, the rule violates the Constitution and federal statutes many times over. One need not look further than the White House to explain the United States Postal Service's unprecedented and unlawful conduct. President Trump has long opposed mail voting, expressing that it would lead to the end of our great Republican Party. Since reassuming office, the president has aimed to, in his words, get rid of mail-in ballots. State attorneys general often have to struggle to connect with voters when explaining what they do for a living or what they did that merits re-election or possibly election to another office. So much of what a state attorney general normally does involves obscure legal issues. The biggest criminal cases in a state are almost always handled by local district attorneys, not state attorneys general. California's attorney general is now involved in some of the very complex corporate litigation involving an antitrust case objecting to the merger of Paramount and Warner Brothers. And just today, California's attorney general, along with other state attorneys general, reached a settlement in a lawsuit against Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, in which Zuckerberg agreed to paying a settlement of as much as $17 billion and to change Facebook and Instagram features that have been used to, in effect, addict children to their social media products. But in a typical year, a typical state attorney general doesn't handle a single case that most voters care about or even know about. But not now. Not in this perilous moment in history, when, if our right to vote survives, it will be thanks to Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell and California Attorney General Rob Bonta and dozens of other state attorneys general in between Massachusetts and California who are now fighting for the most important thing that any state attorney general has ever fought for in this country. They are fighting for nothing less than the preservation of democracy itself. Your lawsuit says it all, but what are the aspects of this lawsuit that you think should turn this now, should turn the Supreme Court around and say, yes, we can now see that what they're doing is illegal?
The U.S. Constitution, the plain language of the Elections Clause, which, as you rightfully have set forth, it says that the states, and to a degree Congress, determine the time, place, and the manner of elections. So the states determine how elections shall be run and administered. The president has zero authority in that regard. The United States Postal Service, zero authority to do anything but fulfill their ministerial role to mail all mailable items. Of course, that doesn't include things that are explosives and hazardous materials and other things, but ballots that represent the fundamental right to vote of eligible Americans are completely mailable. So this is, in my view, an open and shut case. And I think this, if it gets to the U.S. Supreme Court, will be seen just like birthright citizenship was, where there's a U.S. constitutional clause right on point that governs the issue and will determine that the president's unlawful actions and unconstitutional actions should be struck down. I will say that what the U.S. Supreme Court did earlier this week on the emergency docket, on some call it the shadow docket, was procedural only. All they said was that the attorneys general brought their case a little too early and that we needed to wait for a final rule to be issued by the United States Postal Service. That rule has now been issued as of last Friday, and we were in court today bringing our lawsuit. We prevailed on the substance of this issue in our lawsuit on the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court has now returned it back to its starting place at federal district trial court on a procedural matter, and we believe that the substance that won the day the first time around is going to win the day the second time around. We win on the merits here. This is not a close case.
So I've seen the California mail ballots many times. Every California voter receives one at home, and we all have the option of using the mail-in process or taking it and dropping it at an early voting location or bringing it in on election day. And so I just we have an example of it I think we can put up on the screen of what these what these envelopes look like, because this is what Donald Trump's trying to get control of. He's trying to have the Postmaster General design your envelopes. You already have some pretty complex designs here, especially on the return envelope ballot, which does have a barcode on it. Do we know what that barcode is? Is that just an address information, or is there more than address information in that barcode?
The barcode that we use is, as I understand it, a unique identifier for the individual who votes, but it's supposed to be an anonymous vote for the voter in terms of the substance of the votes of the vote and what how the voter what they opt for with the propositions and the measures and the candidates on the ballot. So we have a system in place now, and we have universal vote by mail, as you mentioned. We believe in removing hurdles and barriers from that stand in between eligible voters and the fundamental right to vote, the right from which all other rights flow. It's fundamental to who we are as a country, as a nation. It's fundamental to democracy, and this unlawful and unconstitutional final rule by the United States Postal Service would require us, with 70 days before the election, to redesign the envelopes you just showed, to redesign them in the image that U.S. Postal Service says, to put a different barcode on there. And it throws our upcoming election potentially in chaos unless we can get an order blocking this unlawful our final rule, and we're confident that we will get that. We're ready. We're prepared. We were ready for this day and this moment. We expected something like this to occur, and that's why we were in court today. We got today the judge at our request, is issuing an expedited briefing schedule. So we will have our temporary restraining order ruled upon, or at least a hearing on it, within a week. So we brought a restraining order today. The federal government will have to respond within a day or two. We'll submit our reply thereafter, and we'll have a hearing this time next week.